So I recorded, and it did not record my pre-cal class. Okay, so we need a common denominator. So what would be my common denominator? So when you add, you have to have a common denominator. And I heard someone say 4. So that means that this fraction can stay. I'm going to leave that as 3 over 4. But what do I have to multiply by 1/2 to change it to a 4? 2. Good job. So that gives us 2 over 4 plus 3 over 4, which is 5 over 4. That's how you would add the fractions. When you multiply fractions, how do you multiply fractions? You just go straight across. Good. So that would give us 1 times 3, which is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. You just go straight across. But when you divide, we have to do our keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep the 1/2, change it to multiplication, and then flip the 3 over 4 and make it 4 over 3. And that gives us 4 over 6, which we can reduce. We always see if we can reduce. And that reduces down to 2/3, because that would be your equivalent fraction. So today we're just going to talk about expressions versus equations. Homework 1 is due today. I will take it for full credit today and tomorrow. I do grade it for accuracy, so I am going to be passing back some of those for corrections soon. All right, so let's look at our notes where it says expressions, equations, and inequalities. So when it's an expression, we simplify. You cannot solve an expression. If it's an expression has no equal sign. So that's how you know that it is a expression. So when it's an expression, we're going to follow order of operations, which will be parentheses first, then exponents, then we multiply or divide, and then we end up with adding or subtracting. Let me see if I can make that fit. 1 second. So that's our order of operations for simplifying an expression. So if it contains only numbers, then our answer will only have a number. So our answer is a number. But if it contains variables, then we don't have a single number answer. It's going to have a mix of variables and numbers. So let's talk about an equation. An equation, so an example of an expression would be 3x plus 2. Like that's just an expression. That's an expression. But an equation has an equal sign. And because it has an equal sign, we can solve it. Now, when we solve, we do the order of operations backwards. So we start off by looking for things to add or subtract. So adding or subtracting comes first. And then we look for multiplication and division. And then we look for exponents. And the last thing we look at is parentheses. So if an equation contains only numbers, again, our answer is a number. And if our equation is a variable, then our answer is going to be x equals something. And what that looks like is, instead of 3x plus 2, it'll be 3x plus 2 equals something. That's an example of what it would look like. Okay, so the internet froze a little bit, so we got to give it a second to get caught up. There we go. So 3x plus 2 equals 7. So when you add that equal sign, so on the test, on the Skills Check Friday, there's a couple questions where it says identify the equations. If it has an equal sign, it's an equation. That's it. That's all there is to it. Equations have an equal sign, expressions don't. Okay. So when we look at the meaning, gasoline costs, I wish it costs $2.72 a gallon. That would be nice. So what does this expression mean? 2.72x means what? So what that means is the rate of gas, or the cost. Let's say cost. Let's not say rate. So the cost is $2.72 multiplied by how many gallons? Notice that when it's an expression, we don't know how much we paid. Now, for the second part, we have this equal sign. And you see how in the first one where it says cost is, we actually know the cost. We know that $40.80, that represents how much we paid for gas. At $2.72 per gallon. Now, you can also solve an inequality. So an inequality has a greater than or a less than, or it could be greater than and equal to or less than and equal to. We can also solve an inequality though. So an inequality is not just one number. So an equation, the solution is just one number. For an inequality, it is a set of numbers. And when you divide or multiply by a negative, we have to be careful. Okay, doing good. Almost done. All right. So what does this mean? 2.72x is greater than or equal to. That means that the cost of our gas, was greater than or equal to 30. I'm actually going to correct that, not the cost of gas. Yeah, no, we're going to keep that. That's good. Let's keep it there. All right, so let's do some practice simplifying. Almost finished with our first packet. So we'll do questions 1 through 4 and then we'll end there. So today we'll focus on simplifying and then tomorrow we'll focus on solving. So again, how do I know that these are expressions? What do you notice is not in any of these questions? A what? Equal sign. So that means that we can't figure out what x is. We can only simplify it. First thing we're going to do is we don't have anything to add or subtract because we have an x. So what we're going to do first is distribute the 2, which means I'm multiplying my parentheses by 2. So that would be 5x plus 2x minus 6. And then we're going to look for our like terms, which are 5x and 2x. So 7x minus 6 is my answer. So because this expression had a mixture of variables and letters, my answer also has a mixture of variables and letters. This is an expression. We're not solving, we're just simplifying. All right, let's look at number 2. Go ahead and distribute the 6. So we have 3 plus 6n minus 6. Now go ahead and combine your like terms. And do I have any like terms? What are my like terms? 3 and negative 6. Good job. So what is 3 and negative 6? What do you get when you add those together? What'd you say, Jaden? Negative 3. Good. Now you could write that as negative 3 plus 6n, or you could write 6n minus 3. I should probably say that the same thing for number 1. You could also say negative 6 plus 7x. Okay, so the order that you write the terms does not affect your answer. Just make sure that if that 6 is negative, it stays negative if you reverse it. Okay, so now let's look at question B3. So we have an expression b squared minus 4ac, and they tell us that a is negative 2, b is negative 6, and c is 5. So what that means is we have to substitute. We have to do a substitution first. So I'm going to substitute negative 6 in for b. I'm going to substitute in a negative 2 for A, and I'm going to substitute in 5 for C. So B, we're going to write it with parentheses, b squared minus 4ac. So in my first parentheses where I have B, I'm going to type in negative 6. And then for A, that's negative 2, C is 5. Go ahead, pick up a calculator. There should be calculators around you. If there's not one on your desk, there should be one close to your desk. Make sure you type it in exactly the way it is written on the screen, meaning that the exponent is on the outside of the parentheses and there's a negative 6 inside. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Eight 40 plus 36, 40 plus 36. Did you get 76? Is that what you all got? Good. So that would be your answer. So if we were doing this following the order of operations, let's work through and make sure we understand why it's 36. The first thing we would do is our exponent. So that would be negative 6 squared, which is 36. And then I'm going to multiply going left to right. So the first thing that I'm going to multiply is negative 4 times negative 2, which would be a positive 8. Times 5. And then I'm going to multiply the 8 times 5, which would be a positive 40. And when you add those together, we get 76. All right, number 4, that'll be our last question. I'm going to pass out homework 2. So we have to distribute twice. The first thing we're going to distribute is a 3, multiply by 3. And then your second parentheses, you're going to multiply by negative 1. So that will be 3z plus 2 minus 8 plus z. All right, go ahead and combine your like terms. I messed up. What did I do wrong? I went too fast. Let me start over. What's 3 times z? All right, I did not multiply 3 times 2, though. What's 3 times 2? So that should be plus 6. All right, negative 1 times 8 is negative 8, and negative 1 times negative z is positive z. All right, now we got it. Go ahead and combine your like terms. So 3z plus z, because these are like terms, that's going to give you 4 zebra. And then 6 minus 8 is negative 2. All right, who had that for their answer for number 4? All right, good job.